Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are jumping right into a fascinating historical and psychological case study, one that asks a really profound question. How is it possible for people to look at the exact same facts, but walk away experiencing completely different realities? We're looking at a famous historical account where 12 men walked into the exact same piece of land. They saw the exact same evidence, but 40 days later, they came back and gave two completely divided reports. 10 of them saw absolute lack and certain destruction, but 2 of them, they saw staggering abundance and victory. And here's the part that should literally stop you in your tracks. Nothing about the land had actually changed. The only thing that changed was the mindset of the men looking at it. Let's start by looking at this number 12. So Moses did something that made perfect strategic sense at the time. He picked one leader from each of the 12 tribes of Israel and sent them in to scout out the land of Canaan. Their mission was pretty straightforward. They were to spend 40 days walking the length of the land from north to south to observe the cities, examine the soil, and, take a good look at the people living there. Basically, they were sent to verify the promise.
Okay, let's quickly look at this timeline to really set the scene, because context is everything here. According to the narrative, God had just brought his people out of Egypt, and the sequence of events leading up to this moment is just incredible. First, you've got the plagues in Egypt. Second, the Red Sea literally splits in two to let them escape. Third, manna falls from the sky every single morning to keep them fed. And now they're standing right at the edge of Canaan, the Promised Land. I mean, they have this massive track record of undeniable miracles right in their rearview mirror as they prepare to take this next step forward.
Section 1. The objective reality.
So, with all that history behind them, let's examine the undeniable physical evidence these 12 scouts actually interacted with during their 20-day journey. Looking at the historical account, they found exactly what was promised to them. They found grapes so massive, so heavy, that 2 grown men had to carry a single cluster on a pole balanced between their shoulders. They found pomegranates, they found figs. It was, quite literally, a land flowing with milk and honey. 12 men, the exact same land, the exact same 40 days, and the exact same cluster of grapes sitting on that pole between them. The objective facts of this massive abundance were completely undisputed.
Section 2. The 10 Spies' Fears.
Okay, so the scouts return to the camp. 10 of the spies open their mouths to give their report, and wow, the narrative takes a sudden, really dark turn. At first, they confirm the land is good, right? But they immediately follow it up with a massive but. They start listing off these specific, overwhelming fears. The cities are heavily fortified. The people are huge, like descendants of giants. They even claim the land eateth up the inhabitants. They take the true facts of the challenge and absolutely weaponize them into a terrifying narrative. And, it's exactly what we do today when we feel completely stuck in our lives. We magnify our obstacles until they completely paralyze us. Now, one of the most absolutely crucial insights in this entire story is this specific phrase. We were in our own sight as grasshoppers. Notice something? Nobody went and interviewed the giants. These 10 leaders were just reporting what they had already decided about themselves, and then they just assumed the giants saw them that way too. So the really crucial point here is that a lack mindset operates from the inside out. It doesn't just shrink your view of the obstacle, it shrinks your view of your own identity first. Think about it. 10 grown men, respected leaders of their tribes, looked at a promise, and the only thing they could see clearly was their own inadequacy. And because of this lack mindset, the fear spread like wildfire. By that night, the whole camp was weeping. They were actually ready to pick new leaders and go back to the slavery of Egypt simply because slavery felt like a predictable reality they could survive. It's the ultimate case of choosing the devil you know. Section 3, Joshua and Caleb's perspective. But the story doesn't end there, thankfully. There is an incredible contrast in how the remaining 2 spies, Joshua and Caleb, perceived that exact same 40-day scouting trip. The 10 spies look at the inhabitants and say they are giants. But Joshua and Caleb? They tear their clothes in grief at the camp's panic and declare they are bread for us. Now, obviously, the giants didn't physically shrink while Joshua and Caleb were talking. The facts remained exactly the same. But because Joshua and Caleb magnified their faith, those terrifying giants became nothing more than sustenance, just bread to be consumed. Caleb and Joshua explicitly lay out their logic to the weeping crowd. They essentially argue that the obstacle is entirely defenseless because, in their view, God is on their side. They didn't deny that giants existed, they just brought a much bigger reality to the fight.
Section 4. Lack mindset versus rich mindset.
Let's lay these mechanics side by side so we can actually see how they process the exact same set of facts to reach totally opposite conclusions. Both reports started with identical facts: fortified cities and large people.
Think of it like getting a massive, difficult project at work. A lack mindset says, I am going to fail, this is going to completely destroy my weekend. A rich mindset says, okay, this is a tough challenge, but it's an opportunity for me to prove my skills. A lack mindset says, I am a grasshopper, while a rich mindset says, they are bread. A lack mindset measures the giant against itself, but a rich mindset measures the giant against God. A lack mindset reports what it is afraid of, but a rich mindset reports what it has been promised. A lack mindset exaggerates the negative, saying the land will eat us, while a rich mindset focuses on the truth, saying the land is exceeding good. And finally, a lack mindset spreads contagious fear, but a rich mindset calls everyone listening to a higher standard of courage.
Section 5, the wilderness consequence. Now let's explore the sobering consequences of these reports, because in this historical account, what they chose to report ultimately became their literal reality. Remember, the 12 spies spent exactly 40 days scouting out the abundant land, tasting those grapes, and seeing the milk and honey. Well, according to the account, because the nation chose to accept the lack mindset of those 10 spies, God responded by giving them exactly what they had eyes for. The narrative decrees that they would wander in the wilderness for exactly 40 years, 1 year for every single day the spies had scouted the land. They wandered until that entire fearful generation died without ever once setting foot in the promise they had seen. I know exactly what it's like to feel completely stuck in a rut, just staring at a problem that feels like a giant, convinced there's absolutely no way forward. But Caleb and Joshua, the two who saw fullness instead of lack, they were explicitly spared that judgment. They survived to walk into the land they had faithfully described as flowing with milk and honey. It proves this incredibly powerful psychological principle. What you keep reporting over your own life, you eventually walk into. Your narrative creates your destination. So if you're feeling stuck today, if you find yourself counting your giants and calling yourself a grasshopper, here are 3 really practical steps you can take to choose faith over fear daily. Step 1, audit your words. Seriously, stop calling yourself a grasshopper out loud. Step 2, change your measuring stick. Stop measuring the problem against your own strength and start measuring it against your values or your faith. And step 3, find your Caleb. Surround yourself with people who see the bread, not just the giants. Ultimately, we all have to answer the exact same question those 12 men faced. What report have you been giving over your own life? Because the truth is, the land hasn't changed. The grapes of the promise, they're still right there, hanging on the pole. The objective reality of abundance is available. The only thing left to decide today is, whose report are you going to believe?